I think one of the most powerful things that I have learned about myself has come from nature. Looking at a tree, looking at a mountainside, looking at the ocean, it always makes me realize that this body is part of the earth. I am an animal of this earth, and much like the way I would look at a tree and think it's absolutely perfect, I look at my body and see it the same way. When I wake up in my body, and I wake up knowing that I am exactly the way that I need to be in every moment. And so learning to love myself hasn't necessarily been only about loving myself. It's been about falling in love with this earth and understanding that my body is a part of it and giving myself the same respect that I give the earth. Woo! That is some hot tea. Much like most of my videos nowadays, I have zero plan for what I'm going to talk about. Oh, yeah. It's Saturday night. It's becoming like my Saturday night ritual, I think, to film videos. And I just wanted to sit down and drink some nice, cozy tea and just film a video. I'm drinking peppermint, and I think there's fennel in here and something else. It's way too hot right now, but it's really good. I think I definitely have a lot of resistance towards talking about things related to, makeup or hair, or I don't know how to group them together, but I have kind of a resistance on my channel towards talking about that stuff. And I think so much of the reason why is because it's a very touchy subject for a lot of people. And the reason being because in our society, we really grew up with our physical appearance being something that carried so much weight. And the way we carried ourselves was and is still, so important in a lot of aspects of our society. All genders have their own things that come with being of that gender. And being a woman, from the time that I grew up, we were very conditioned to look a certain way and to be a certain way. And, especially in the early 2000s, to have a very certain weight. And there are so many things wrapped up in that were so ingrained into us with celebrity culture. And I don't think I need to go into all that because we all understand it. And because of all that, there's so much hurt that's in a lot of people surrounding that topic, surrounding anything having to do with self-expression or the way we look or makeup. And rightfully so, because, like I said, growing up, that was such a huge thing. And so now it carries a lot of weight and a lot of trauma for people. And so I have resistance a lot to talking about stuff like that because I'm always trying to be, well, not even trying. I'm just really aware of the way that I'm being perceived. And I never want to say anything that can hurt somebody or offend somebody. And yet, with living in a society where we all carry our own personal trauma and so much of us have a lot that we're hurting inside of us, there are not many words that we can say on the internet without, affecting someone, without bringing out a trigger in someone or just reaching someone, not even in a necessarily a bad way, but we all carry our own individual things that we're working through. And so, like I said, I've had resistance towards talking about makeup, and I can only speak from my personal experience, and I never want to seem like I'm speaking, for your experience and your experience and your experience. This is just my lens of the world. And, stuff like makeup for women carries a lot of weight because our whole lives we were conditioned to believe that we had to look a certain way. And then there's this whole thing about self-expression, but only if you fit into this or that or that. And so it carries a lot of trauma, and that's a very real thing. And yet I'm learning how to maybe talk about that stuff with my own personal lens relating to my own personal life. And if it's something that reaches you, amazing. If not, I feel like by sharing myself more, especially on the internet, in my own personal life, I feel a lot of openings and I feel like I'm a lot clearer with myself and in communication and in being vulnerable. And so, yeah, this is just, my lens of the world. And these days, I don't really plan out videos. I do sometimes, but today it's like almost 7 p.m. I did not plan out anything. I just opened my computer and I was like, what should I talk about? And then I sat down and this started coming out. So I was like, I guess this is what I'm talking about. And so basically, yeah, I want to share what's true for me. And if it's true for you, amazing. If not, that's okay too. We all have a different lens of this world. We all have different reasons why we're in this world. And let's just like share ourselves in a loving and open way and receive others in that way as well. Because, yeah. I made a video about why I stopped wearing makeup. And in that video, I talked a lot about the process of going from, I don't even think I mentioned this in that video, but I was doing like kind of like makeup artist work on the side and was wearing a ton of makeup. I was modeling and acting. You know, there weren't many moments of the day where I wasn't wearing makeup. And it had its time and place in my life. And it's so interesting because what I found in my own life is like for so long you just have this idea. And I think especially now with like, you know, Instagram filters and stuff like that, we build up this idea of what we need to look like. My lips need to be bigger, or my cheekbones need to be more defined, my eyebrows need to be bigger. We all are conditioned, I should say, to have those things about us that we're like, this should be different, this should change. And for me, I had those things, and what I've come to realize, and I don't know how to fully put it into words, is that our faces are our faces are our faces. Like, they're perfect in the exact way that they're supposed to be. My eyelashes are not supposed to be shorter or longer. My eyebrows are not supposed to be thicker or thinner. My face is the way that it is. And I think the simplest thing I can say about this topic, because it's not something I really think about anymore, is that when I wake up in the morning, I wake up with my body, and my body is the way that it is. And I no longer treat it as a project. I see it as a complete perfect thing that, you know, I can build more muscle, I can exercise more, I can get in better shape, I can eat healthier and eat better foods. But the way my body is today is absolutely perfect. You know, there are things I can work towards, like I said, like exercising or making, like, feeling healthier. But when I wake up in my skin, I'm happy to be in my skin. And I think that was something that I didn't think was possible at all in life, because we are surrounded by a culture that doesn't make it seem like that's possible. Even the most beautiful people in the world, or beautiful by our society standards, still get plastic surgery and still have their insecurities and still wear makeup. And like, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're kind of taught our whole life that our physical appearance is a constant project. And the most peaceful thing I've come to terms with is that my physical appearance is not a project. It is the way it is. I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so beautiful, or oh my God, I look terrible. I'm just like somewhere in the middle where I'm like, it fully is the way it is. And I like my face. I think it reflects myself, because this is the face that I have. And yet it's just not something I think about that much, because it just feels like, yeah, it just is the way it is, you know? I can, you know, wish I had, I don't know, a bigger butt, or what do people want? Or I'm not on the Instagram anymore. I don't know what the trends are for appearances anymore. I could wish I had like, I could wish I was taller or shorter, or wish that my legs were a little bit longer, or wish I had a little bit more curve. I don't know. I could wish all of those things, and yet like, they're not going to happen. You know, they're not going to happen. And so at what point do we stop expelling our energy towards things that don't need to change? And our bodies can be a process in the way of getting healthier and getting stronger. And yet it's really important to love ourselves in the process of it, and to love ourselves waking up in the morning being like, hey, I could stand to maybe gain a little bit more muscle and eat a little bit healthier. And yet I wake up today in this body, and I love this body. I'm so happy that I get to be in this body today. Like, what a gift. Out of all the bodies, I got to be in this one. This is pretty cool. And I'm just grateful to be here. And it's, yeah, I don't know how to put it into words, but loving yourself isn't some idealistic thing. And my experience with it, I may be sitting here today, you know, not that I'm perfect in my own life, but I went through a lot of trials in my life with being comfortable with what I look like. Like a lot of trials, and it just like it was a process. And it was a process of every single morning waking up and making the decision to love myself no matter what. Whatever thought came up, whatever thing came up, it was a decision to just love myself in whatever way that I was in that day. And yes, it was a process, and it was a process that took time. It wasn't something that happened, overnight. And in other aspects of my life, I'm still learning how to continue becoming more comfortable in myself and speaking my truth and other stuff. But this part of me was something that took so long to get to where I am today. And I feel like because of that, in some aspects, I have a removed perspective from how I used to feel, like feeling insecure about my appearance and all that stuff, because it has been so long. And yet I just want to make it really clear that it wasn't roses and butterflies all the time. It took a really long time, and it took the commitment to myself of every single day waking up, knowing that one day I could fully love myself every single day, no matter what. And trusting that, because I think something I heard so much was that it wasn't possible to like love yourself fully. Like, oh, everybody is insecure about something physically, and you can't fully heal that. That's something you have for your whole life. I think I heard that a lot. And I just didn't want to believe it was true. And I think I'm at the point where I'm like, yeah, it's not true. And like I said, there's other aspects of my life that I'm learning how to tune up and learning how to get better at, and learning how to give myself more leeway and love with. And yet I want you to know that like it takes time to unwind all of the just conditioning we have around the way that we look and the way that we think we should look. And yet it is fully possible, and it's about being on our own team. It's not about being hard on ourselves, like, oh, I was mean to myself today, blah, 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 blah. No, it's about being here right now and being on our own team, being like, I want to feel good about myself. I think making that decision in and of itself was a huge step, because there's so many times when I'm like, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that, but I don't really want it, When I decided that I actually wanted to love myself, oh my God, it was like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's a process, but it's a process of just making that commitment and then showing up for yourself every day, even when it's hard, and finding your own way through it. Some people do really well with talking to other people about it. That can be really helpful in healing. Journaling is great. Spending time in nature. Meditation is great. And drinking tea is great. I have a video that I made quite recently called The Medicine is in the Moment. And I just fully believe that so much. Like, I feel that so much in my life. There's not one day where what I need is exactly the same. But one thing I can count on is that if I learn to fully show up for myself and fully be here in this current moment right now of me sitting in my living room at 7 p.m. on a Saturday filming a video, if I can fully show up in this moment, I have the ability beyond the future or the past or whatever to be like, what do I need right now? What do I actually need right now? And with that, like, all else fades away. Doing work on yourself and self-care and like healing things is important, and yet acknowledging that when you're fully here in the moment, you have the full awareness of everything that needs to be done. So the practice isn't just in healing ourselves, healing trauma, healing whatever. The practice is in learning how to be present in every moment so that we can know how we need to heal that. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I just wanted to open up this conversation because it is something that's very close to my heart. It's something that, like I said, I struggled with for most of my life up until I started healing it maybe about, it's hard to say, it's a long process. I think I started healing it maybe about 5 years ago. And where I'm at, it has nothing to do with where you should be or where you are. We're all on our own journeys of what we need to heal, and that's totally great. And the reason why I share this is firstly, because it opens up a part of me, and I think being vulnerable in a way that still honors me and still keeps my this bubble of energy keeping myself within that while also learning how to be vulnerable and share myself more and just share these insights I've had without being afraid of how they're perceived or anything like that. Not that I'm not afraid of posting on YouTube sometimes, a lot of times. It's a scary place out there, you know? And so not just for my own sake of like, it feels really good to share this stuff that I've figured out in my own personal life, but also just like understand that you're on your own journey. And when you learn to be on your own team, it is a game changer. And just know that like everything is a process, and especially this for me personally was a process, and yet it's a process that got way better. And once I learned to be on my own team, like it led me to where I am today, and I'm still growing and learning, and yet I'm in a much better place today than I was when I started. So that is an accomplishment in and of itself, and I'll still go through trials, and you know, things will get hard for me, and then they'll get easy, and then they'll get hard, and then they'll get easy, and yet that's just what life is, you know. Easier said than done, obviously, but it is what it is. And I wanted to share this video. A lot of us are unwinding right now a lot of the things that we were conditioned to do or conditioned to feel. And it isn't about blaming the past or blaming this or blaming that. It's about focusing on ourselves, what we need now, what we can do to help ourselves now, instead of dwelling on the past, being aware of it and letting it be our teacher, and yet walking forward and letting life be the ultimate experience of healing. Letting this present moment be the thing that brings us closer and closer to ourselves. Because in every aspect of your life, you deserve to feel good and loved and appreciated. And if you don't feel that today, if you make the commitment to be on your own team, it'll happen on your own timeline. And yet, when you fully authentically show up for yourself in the exact way that you need, you're always walking closer and closer to what life is meant to bring for you. So just know that you are so loved in so many ways, and that you deserve to be on your own team. Because, you know, this world out here, it gets scary sometimes. And I went out in public when there were a lot of people, and people were driving really aggressively, and it's okay. And yet it's okay because I'm like on my own team. If I'm not on my own team, that gets a lot scarier out there, you know? So I just want to share that. Thank you so much for listening to this super random video that I just decided to film like when I sat down. I hope that you're doing well and taking care of yourself. And I just hope that in every aspect of your life, you're learning to live it the way that feels authentically and truly and in the most healthy way to you. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day today.